Welcome back, everyone. Phoenix 3 here, and I am going to be talking about a new possible Pokemon list of Pokemon that may be in the final release of the game. This list is also going to include the ones that we already know of, as well as adding a whole new list here for support Pokemon as well, because we now know about them. So everything is up for speculation on this part here. On April 25th and on 26th, they're going to be revealing new information about the game. They're also going to have, I don't know if they're going to call it a tournament, but they're going to have the voice actors of the people that play the voices of the Pokemon in the game play as the Pokemon that they voice and have them fight against each other. So it may be a 5 to 8 man tournament between them. And why I say 8 is because I believe they are going to show off 3 new Pokemon on April 25th and 26th, or they may show off all 3 on April 25th and reveal a new Pokemon on April 26th. Kind of not have any gameplay of it, but kind of do what they did with Lucario and Blaziken at the end of the teaser thing that they did for Pokemon when they were showing off, I believe, X and Y. And that Pokemon, it can be anything, realistically, just because, I mean, my mind is still blown that they managed to put Suicune in the game. So it can literally be anything. But on that note, I do believe we can expect to see Hawlucha and Blaziken there. I'm almost certain that these 2 Pokemon are going to be shown on April 25th and 26th. I have no way of knowing that. It's just Hawlucha has a pretty decent fan following of the new Pokemon. It's probably actually one of the more popular ones next to like Greninja. Blaziken, going back to that screenshot they showed, I always thought it was really odd that they didn't show off Blaziken at all, considering they had it done. But they showed off 3 new characters in Pikachu, Suicune, and Gardevior. So if Blaziken is going to be in the game, I expect to see Blaziken there as well. And I'm expecting them to show off one other Pokemon. I'm not exactly sure who this other Pokemon would be. I figure 8 is going to be the good number that they're going to show currently for the event, just so if they are actually doing this little tournament between players, they have an equal number of players. So I'm expecting to see one more Pokemon. I have no idea who it is. Hopefully it's not another fighting type, because I mean, the game's already got enough of them in my opinion, just based on what we see here. I mean, out of the 8 possible Pokemon, 4 of them are fighting types between Blaziken, Hawlucha, Lucario, and Machamp. So hopefully we see something else. I'm still having really high hopes that Pidgeot and some other bird Pokemon can be in this game. That would make me happy, but that's pretty much my predictions there for April. We can expect to see Hawlucha, Blaziken, and one other Pokemon. I don't have anything for support, because literally anything can be support. But basically, just going into the list, so far we have, as confirmed playable, we have Pikachu, Suicune, Gardevoir, Machamp, Lucario. You guys already know that. For some of you other guys who haven't been keeping up with Pokken Tournament news, it has a support system where certain Pokemon come in, use an attack, and leave. Think of it as the assist system from games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or the Naruto Storm series. Character comes in, uses a move, and they jump out. These Pokemon so far have been shown as Snivy, Lapras, Eevee, Emolga, Fennekin, and Frogadier. Now, Harada said that he will be able to implement any Pokemon in the game without any problems. This year was before we even knew about the support system, so I was really confused on how they would add something like Gyarados to the game as a playable character. And this pretty much confirms my suspicion that we won't see any fish or serpent-like Pokemon be playable characters. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule, obviously. Like, I do believe Serperior will actually be in the final version of the game, just because Serperior actually has a mean of fighting. And since we have actually seen the actual guard system and how that works, it seems like it'll work better in Serperior's case, but we can also see a Pokemon like Survivor or some other snake Pokemon like Arbok. It's not too great in their cases since Serperior actually has vines it can attack with. Serperior also has arms. I mean, they're not very big, but that's just my piece in Serperior's defense. It is a character that I do enjoy, so hopefully I can actually use it more in the Pokemon games. But when he said that they'll be able to implement any character, this year was, once again, before we knew about the support system. So I thought that maybe he could find a way to get like a Goldeen or a Seaking to fight. But now that we do know what the support system is like, we can see characters like Goldeen and Seaking come in, use one attack, and then leave. You know, this here actually kind of makes me think, it's like, you know, why did they choose Suicune over Lapras, for example? You know, Suicune has, well, more opposable limbs, I guess, and can move around freely, whereas a Pokemon like Lapras won't be able to move around as freely as it would like on the ground. And, you know, there looks like there's not going to be any fighting in water here whatsoever. So that'll be kind of interesting. And just something else that was off the top of my head too, like maybe they could make all of these Pokemon playable, but have like different game types. Like in Pokemon X and Y, they introduced Sky Battles, and this here was where Pokemon that could fly, had the flying ability, that had the flying type or levitate, could participate in their own battles, creating a completely different tier system. You know, for the most part, things like Stealth Rocks isn't a problem. Some things can learn it like Aerodactyl, but you know, it'd be interesting to see something like that here. Maybe have like a sea battle where you can only play as Pokemon that can fight in the water, and then you can like play as a Pokemon like Lapras or Gyarados, or sky battles where you can play Pokemon that only fly. I think that'd be pretty interesting to cool if they can actually implement something like that. And this would really make this into like a fully fledged Pokemon game. And I actually want to talk about that in another video, but this is just character speculation for now, so I'm just going to do that. I just figured I'd just throw that out there since it was on my mind. So, Pokemon like serpent-like Pokemon, fish, other Pokemon that don't have as much mobility as they would like to on the battleground, Pokemon like Venusaur and stuff like that, they can have a niche here in the support Pokemon role, because they just come in, use an attack, and leave. Now, one thing I don't know how they're going to get it to work is get some Pokemon who have Mega Evolutions to be able to use their Mega Evolution when they come out as support. Now, I have a theory on how that may work, if it is even a thing. Like I said, we currently don't know. But what they can do is, if you are playing as a Pokemon that doesn't have a Mega Evolution, for example, Pikachu, and you use your support, maybe your support Pokemon will come out as a Mega if it has a Mega, and it may cost Pikachu some meter, but they come out, do a really powerful attack, and then leave. That's how I'm thinking it may work. Then again, they may not even use their Megas, but at this point, it doesn't seem likely that they're not going to give a Pokemon a Mega just because, you know, it's just a support role. You know, even in the Capcom versus Marvel games, these Pokemon can still come out, use their ultimates, and then leave. But that's it for support Pokemon. I already went over Pokemon that we can expect to see on April 25th and 26th. Those again being Hawlucha, Blaziken, and one other Pokemon. I have no idea what this is. Hopefully it's a fan favorite. But actually going into the list, because I have this whole thing written down just so I'm not jumping over words and whatnot. And I have all these listed in generation like I did on my previous picture. I do not have a screenshot or a pretty little character selection screen because I have no way of knowing how to fit all of these Pokemon in here. I do think the final roster is going to be around 60 to 80 Pokemon playable, not including support. But from Gen 1, we have Charizard and Mega Charizard X. Now, the reason I chose Mega Charizard X was because, for some reason, Game Freak and Nintendo seem to have a preference for Mega Charizard X. I mean, even the Pokemon Company. Whenever I see any flyers at Pokemon tournaments, it's always Mega Charizard X. Even in the strongest Mega Evolution series that they have, one of the characters uses Mega Charizard X. In Smash Bros, which I didn't even know they were going to do before, I started making these lists and whatever. They use Mega Charizard X. So everywhere else in popular media where Charizard is showing to be going to a Mega Evolution, it has always been Charizard X. Even in Pokemon Chronicles. No, Pokemon, the one based on Pokemon Red and Blue. I forgot what it's called. It's not Pokemon Chronicles. That's a separate series. But the one where Red is going through Pokemon Red and Blue, he gets a Mega Stone from Mr. Fuji. Even his Charizard is Mega Charizard X. So, I believe Mega Charizard X will be the Mega Evolution in this game. It'll be nice if they gave you the option to use Mega Charizard Y, because I'm actually a fan of Mega Charizard Y. But it's not likely given what they've been doing on it. And I can probably even say in Pokemon Shuffle, the Mega Charizard you're going to get is going to be Charizard X too. So, there's just that. But we're also going to see Blastoise and his Mega. I believe Blastoise will be in the game. Blastoise is more mobile than Venusaur, which is why I don't have him on the actual list. I believe we'll see Pidgeot and its Mega. Pikachu's already been confirmed. I believe we'll see Sandslash. I believe we'll see Ninetails. Machamp has already been confirmed. I believe we'll see Rapidash. I believe we'll see Gengar and its Mega. We'll see both Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. Electabuzz, Magmar, Pinsir and its Mega. We'll see Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon. We'll also see Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, as well as Dragonite, Mewtwo, and Mega Mewtwo Y. For the same reasons that I chose Mega Mewtwo Y are for the exact same reasons I chose Charizard X. Nintendo, Game Freak, and the Pokemon Company seem to have a preference for Mega Mewtwo Y, which is why in Smash, we see Mega Mewtwo Y, and other popular media we see Mega Mewtwo Y as well. We don't see Mega Mewtwo X. There's also a theory out there going around that the Mewtwo that goes Mega Mewtwo Y is a female Mewtwo, and the one that goes Mega Mewtwo X is male. But I think for just the sheer popularity of this game, we'll see Mega Mewtwo Y as to not have more fighting types be in the game. Because they did say the game isn't going to be exclusive to fighting types, and they still probably just confirm that a little bit. And as you guys may know, my list here for Gen 1 and Gen 2 Pokemon are going to be quite large in comparison to the rest of the other generations. This here is because I believe, Harada is a fan of the earlier Pokemon generations, Gen 1, Gen 2. A lot of people in my generation who grew up with Pokemon are Gen 1 and Gen 2 fans. I grew up with Gen 1, but I personally prefer Gen 2. Just because it's a combination of the both, and it offered new game mechanics and stuff like that. And 3, a lot of people who play in current fighting game tournaments like Mortal Kombat, Smash Bros, Tekken, Street Fighter, these people also grew up with Pokemon as well. So I can see them having the list of Pokemon be heavily influenced by Gen 1 and Gen 2 just to draw these players into the game, therefore creating an entirely new meta and competition just based on this game and the big names of fighting games like Perfect Legend, JDCR. Sorry if I don't remember any of the other top names off the top of my head, but we can see them playing Pokken tournament as well. They might not, but if they see Pokemon that they grew up with on the list of Pokemon in here, they'll be more likely to actually pick it up and care enough to play in the game. Going on to Gen 2, I believe we may see Meganium, just because it has more mobility to be able to get around the field. We'll see Typhlosion, Feraligatr, Noctowl, Ampharos and its Mega. We'll see Espeon and Umbreon, Scizor and its Mega, Heracross and its Mega, Sneasel, Ursaring, Skarmory. I'm questioning whether or not Skarmory would actually make it into the game. But I'm adding Metal and Dark types because these are new types introduced to the game, and Skarmory is pretty much like the poster boy for the Metal type at the time. So that's basically my reason for that. We may also see Houndoom and its Mega. Hitmontop seems like it'll be shoehorned in at some point, and we may also see Raikou and Entei. Suicune has already been confirmed, and we'll also see Tyranitar and its Mega. Now, the reason I am adding all the Pokemon trios is because this is still Pokemon, and little kids love legendaries. That's pretty much the only reason there. And also on this list as well, I added all of the evolutions in as playable characters. Now, I have no idea whether or not they're going to be playable. I was thinking about just trying to find 3 to fit in and make the rest support Pokemon. But, I mean, the evolutions can go either which way. They'll probably be all playable. They'll probably be all support. There may be a mix of playable and support. And they might not even be playable at all or have any role in the game. And Eevee's just the only one left in support. But the evolution that I am pretty confident in that will be in the game is Sylveon. I believe Sylveon, if it does make it into the game, will be playable. So we can pretty much expect to see Sylveon. But I think they all might be playable just because they all have similar body types, which is the reason why I'm adding trios, is because they have similar body types. And if you know anything about 3D modeling, you kind of make you make stock models of like characters that you're going to make in bulk. Like for instance, for the evolutions, basically you just make a big head, a jelly bean like body with a neck, legs, and that's it. Everything else you can just add on to the model as you want to go on to it. So it's not like you're recreating the same model over and over again. You're actually taking the pre-made model that you have, and you're just changing certain parts in it. There's a video on YouTube showing how someone made Leafeon and Glaceon in 3D using that exact same method. But I do believe we can see all trios playable, most notably because they're legendaries, and little kids like legendaries. And I mean, I like legendaries too. So that's going to be there. From Gen 3, I believe we can expect to see Sceptile. I believe Blaziken is going to be shown off on April 25th or the 26th. And its Mega, we can also expect to see Swampert and its Mega. I did have a hard time placing a lot of Pokemon from Gen 3, just because I was trying to find the most influential Pokemon from the series. That's basically how I constructed this list, is Pokemon that are popular in the trading card game, the Pokemon game in terms of VGC, which ones were actually important to the series, like the development of the region, and Pokemon that might have been shown off in the anime many times over, as well as movies. But I added Hariyama just because I felt like this is a Pokemon you remember from Gen 3. So it made the list. I have Mawile on the list as well as its Mega. It's pretty much here just because it has a Mega, and it's been an extremely popular Pokemon lately. Medicham and its Mega, Manectric and its Mega, Flygon, because Flygon has a huge fan following, so you can't not have it. Zangoose, because, well, Zangoose surprisingly has a very large fan following as well, and it doesn't get as much love as it would love to get from Game Freak. So this would be a chance for it to shine. It is also a Pokemon favorite of mine as well, so I would want to see that. We also have Absol and its Mega. Absol and its Mega is actually a very surprising Mega for me. You know, I really like its design, and seeing it with wings, because I like things with wings, so I will be glad if they add Mega Absol into the game as well, because it'll really help the Absol fans get what they want. I believe we can also see Metagross and its Mega, and we can see Latios and its Mega. So Gen 3 is a very Mega heavy list, and I think the reason for that is because Pokemon didn't get competitive until about Generation 5, and Mega Evolutions were their way of making certain Pokemon more competitive in terms of the Pokemon from Gen 5 and Gen 6. This is why we don't see many Pokemon from Generation 5 and Generation 6 have Mega Evolutions, because they were already designed in mind with the competitive format, which is VGC, that's officially supported by Game Freak and Nintendo. So this is the reason why we have more Megas from the past generations, is because these generations were not made with competitive formats in mind. This is, I think, no, Gen 4 is when they introduced Stealth Rock, but Gen 4 wasn't really a competitive format or generation as well. But do notice that I don't have Latias on this list. And that is because I believe Latias is going to be a support Pokemon if any of these two do make it into the game. From Gen 4, we have Infernape, Empoleon. I didn't put Torterra in for the exact same reasons I didn't put Venusaur in. It's because I believe they are better choices for support Pokemon than actual playable characters. I believe we can see Staraptor, because actually a very popular thing on the internet is like Pidgeot versus Staraptor for some reason. I don't understand that. I think it's now Pidgeot versus Braviary, but that was a thing for a while. So I would kind of like to see this settle. You know, this is kind of like, well, it's not really on the same level as like Scorpion versus Sub-Zero, but for some reason the community like to see these two fight, so I would like to see these two fight as well. I believe we can actually see Luxray, because Luxray, a lot like Pyroar, have very interesting designs. I love Luxray's design. It was just a Pokemon that I always felt should have a little more support than what it does. I would love to see Luxray get a Mega. And I hope its Mega is like Electric Dark. Oh my god, that would be so sick. Like, I thought this thing was going to be an Electric Dark type when I saw it at first, because I believe this year was a generation where they stopped associating Pokemon with like color types or something like that. And Luxray was definitely one that kind of threw that for a loop. Everybody thought he was going to be like Dark Electric, but no, he came out just pure Electric. So hopefully Luxray does get a Mega at some point, and it ends up being like Electric Dark. That'd be nice. And I have Weasel here instead of Floatzel, because Weasel actually has more support in the show, and I believe has a larger fan following than Floatzel does. This is because Ash had one, and it was generally portrayed as a badass in the show. And since they're trying to portray Pikachu here as a badass as well, there's no reason not to have another Pokemon that's not fully evolved be in the game. Since they actually are showing that they can make a Pokemon like Pikachu playable, there's no reason to have Weasel not as a playable character as well. So I would like to see this Pokemon here over Floatzel be in the game if that is a deciding factor. Another Pokemon that I had here was Ambipom, because this game has a very foresty feel to it. There are tall trees everywhere. So, of course, we can't have a little monkey not be in the game as a playable character. And at the time when Gen 4 was around, Ambipom was very good because it had a very odd speed tier. I believe his max speed was 361, which was a lot higher than most Pokemon in the game, since the maximum speed tier at the time was base 110, where Pokemon had a max speed of 350. I mean, we still had Pokemon like Jolteon, Gengar, and stuff that were able to outspeed it. But Ambipom, in combination with Technician, it had Fake Out and Double Hit. So when Ambipom came into the battle, you really had to respect the fake out, and you had to respect the double hit. And I believe people solely brought Gengars on their team just so they can wall Ambipom. I also believe we're going to see Lopunny and its Mega, Garchomp and its Mega. Lucario has been confirmed, and you really can't have Gardevoir in the game without Gallade. So I believe we'll see Gallade and its Mega as well. I believe every Pokemon that has a counterpart may also have an appearance somewhat in the game. I believe this will be completely disrespectful to like Gardevoir's line if they don't have Gallade in the game. Going into Gen 5, I believe we can see Serperior, Samurott, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think we're going to see the grass type again. You know, the grass types just unfortunately have this thing where they make them all big, bulky, and slow, and it just doesn't transfer well into a fighting game, like at all. Even in most other fighting games with big characters, they're still mobile. But, you know, I'm not going to expect to see a big grass Pokemon in this game be as mobile as, like Bob from Tekken. And I should probably try to correct myself here because, you know, Serperior is a grass type. But I was actually trying to say we're not going to see Emboar in the game because of, you know, big, bulky, and slow. And plus, it takes away another starter for the most part, and another fire starter. So I believe we will be seeing Serperior and maybe Samurott. But going on from starters, we may also see Seismitoad. I always thought Seismitoad should have been something a little more than what he was. He's big. He's big. He's like Shao Kahn big for the most part. So I can see him, you know, being a fighter in the game. I believe we'll also see Throh and Sock. Zoroark obviously has to be in the game because Zoroark also has this rivalry on the internet with Lucario for being a fan favorite. So you really can't have Lucario in the game and not have Zoroark as well. I believe we'll see Haxorus because of the champion of the generation. She used a Haxorus as well. Ming Shao, I believe we'll see this one as well. Braviary, just because we need to have a bird from this generation on the list. I also believe we'll see Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion in the game. And just because of that, we'll also see Keldeo. The reason I'm more legendary heavy on this list is because a lot of kids growing up now with Pokemon have grown up with Generation 5 under their belts. And this here is pretty much their introduction to Pokemon. Like our introduction was pretty much Gen 1 and Gen 2. Their introduction is going to be Generation 5. So I feel I have to have a good selection of memorable Gen 5 Pokemon on the list. And I do believe this list here is pretty good. There is a chance Sawsbuck will actually be in the game. I just didn't have it on the list because I was really having a hard time trying to place the sword Pokemon in Keldeo with another one. So I figured I would just give the entire slot to the Sacred Sword Pokemon and Keldeo. From Generation 6, we have Chestnut, just because, I mean, people like Chespin, so I figured I'll put its evolution in. I mean, if Chestnut doesn't make it into the game, Chespin will. Delphox. Delphox was surprisingly, I guess, is hot the right word to use there? Is it? I'm gonna use surprisingly hot, I guess. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, people weren't expecting much of its design. They thought it was going to be another firefighting type. Then it comes out just like fire psychic. It just completely blew everything away. Even with the evolution line, it went in a completely different direction than what most were actually expecting it to. And it has a huge fan following as well. But it doesn't have a huge fan following like Greninja does. Let's face it, Naruto has proved that ninja frogs are cool. So of course Pokemon has to have a ninja frog. I mean, ninja frogs are just cool. I mean, there's no other way to like go around that. We all like ninja frogs. It's probably as much as we like dragons and like other sacred beasts. Next Pokemon is Talonflame because we gotta have a bird. I'm not putting it here on the list because of its popularity through Gale Wings. I'm putting it on the list because I want to try to have a bird from every generation on the list, and Talonflame is probably the only bird that most people care about. So I decided to put it on the list as well. I have Pyroar on the list because of Lysander's crazy hairstyle. It reminds you of Pyroar, so I have Pyroar on the list just because of that. Another Pokemon on the list is Pangoro because one, it's a bear, two, it's a panda, and Tekken, they have bears and pandas. So I figured this would be a character they may be interested in trying. Plus, it's a dark fighting type, so it'll also fill the role as fighting type for this generation. I believe we'll also see Heliolisk as well because it has a really cool design. It's really nimble and fast. I feel this would be another Pokemon to keep Pikachu on its feet. And I believe it's a favorite as well amongst some people. It's not as popular as like some other Pokemon, but I do believe it'll be a good addition to the game. I have Tyrantrum in the game just because we need to have more big, bulky, I guess, monster type Pokemon. And plus, this would be something to see between. It'd be cool to see a fight between like Tyranitar and Tyrantrum in a game. Sylveon, of course, I believe Sylveon for sure is going to be playable if they pick any evolution, just because it's the new fairy type. And let's face it, they've been pushing Sylveon hard. So I mean, there's no way I won't expect Sylveon to be in this game. I believe Hawlucha is going to be revealed on the 25th or 26th, and Noivern, I believe Noivern is going to be in the game as well, just because it plays a role as a smaller dragon and gives something like Charizard competition if it does make it into the game. So that's basically my large list of Pokemon I feel may be playable and the reasons why I think they may be playable in the game. Now, going on to support Pokemon, I have on the exact same list here. My list for Gen 1 and Gen 2 are heavier than the other ones. I believe from going from Gen 3 to 6, I only have 7 Pokemon listed for each of those generations. But here from Gen 1, I have Venusaur and its Mega. If they do find a way to make the Megas do something through support, it'll be cool. I believe we'll see Butterfree, because Butterfree is a Pokemon that we all remember from Gen 1. We remember it from the anime, you know, when Pokemon was still good. And then Ash got rid of it. Another Pokemon I believe you'll see is Pidgeotto. Ash had a Pidgeotto throughout the duration of the game. Pidgeotto also seems to be a staple in spin-off Pokemon games. If you looked at Pokepark series, Pidgeotto is in both of them, I believe, and Pidgeot doesn't make a single appearance in the game. So I believe we'll at least see Pidgeotto as a support Pokemon in the game as well. Jigglypuff was actually kind of hard to place on the list because I was torn between Clefairy and Jigglypuff, but I feel Jigglypuff is more deserving of the spot because Jigglypuff has pretty much been a comic relief character in the show, like pretty much like Team Rocket. So Jigglypuff has to be here on the list as well. Another Pokemon that we would see is Dugtrio, just because everybody remembers Diglett Cave and how much of a pain it was in Pokemon Fire Red to go through that cave because it had the arena trap ability and you couldn't run from it. Such a pain. So I think Dugtrio will be here. He just comes in, does Earthquake, and leaves. Another Pokemon is Mr. Mime. I believe we will be seeing Mr. Mime in the game just because Mr. Mime has a very good role as a support Pokemon through things like screens, barriers, and protects. So I believe we can see Mr. Mime probably using Protect in this game. You know, just block one attack coming at you. I believe we may see that. Lapras has already been confirmed. Eevee has already been confirmed. And I believe we'll see Mew as well in the game, though I don't think Mew will have the ability to use every single attack. I mean, maybe it would, and gives you some more viability. and just unpredictability. That's basically what Mew does. It's completely unpredictable. You don't ever know what it's going to do. So maybe Mew comes in, uses Metronome, and it just picks off one of the moves from a support Pokemon that it can use. And that's probably the reason why I didn't put Clefairy on the list as well, because Mew is more memorable than Clefairy, and Mew is capable of doing the exact same things and more. Now, I had Meowth on the list, but I removed Meowth because I really couldn't fit it in. You know, Meowth has always been the blunt of a joke in the series. We've never actually seen Meowth do anything in games or anything else like that. If anybody remembers Meowth, it's simply just getting launched off because it got blown up by Pikachu. Except in that one episode that they made where they was trying to give Meowth some character development when it was about to get eaten by like this giant Pidgeot along with Pikachu. I would have enjoyed that, by the way. But that's my list for Gen 1. Going on to Gen 2, I believe we'll see Crobat, because Crobat has a fan following as well, but I don't see it quite being a fighter. So making it a support Pokemon is the next best option. We can also expect to see Pichu, because the Pichu brothers are still around. As a matter of fact, they just might be the Pichu brothers on the list versus just a generic Pichu. Because I believe all the Pokemon that they are going to show in the game are going to have played some role in Pokemon lore at some point in time. Another reason why I'm so adamant that Pidgeot be in a game is because Pidgeot has been in lore for the Pokemon series as well, especially the movie with Lucario. Another Pokemon we'll see is Jumpluff. Who doesn't like Jumpluff? I think everybody likes Jumpluff. So I believe we'll see Jumpluff just because of that. Like, you think Gen 2, you remember Jumpluff. Like, whenever I think of Gen 2, I think of Jumpluff. Same thing with the next Pokemon being Murkrow. Murkrow is pretty much the poster child for Dark types. You know, it was really one of the first ones introduced into series when they added the new types. You know, versus the ones we already have, but support-wise, I believe Murkrow will be a good choice for a support Pokemon. We have Wobbuffet as well. You know, Wobbuffet isn't a fighter. It's a punching bag. So I believe Wobbuffet will serve that role right there. It gets hit, it does counter. Of course, it'll have to shoot something back at you, but I believe Wobbuffet would be a good choice for a support Pokemon. Another one is Porygon 2. Next is Blissey and Celebi. Just because I really don't see Celebi as being a fighter. And I guess it's not really because of the whole size thing, but it just seems Celebi plays more of a support role in anything that I've ever seen Celebi do. I've never really seen Celebi as a fighter. So that's going to stay true for most of the really small Pokemon that I have as well. Now, some of these Pokemon may come out in trios as well. Like, we really don't know what they're going to choose. But again, this is just speculation, so I'm just doing what I think might make sense for a game. From Gen 3, we got Dustox, Krylia, because Krylia is another Pokemon that I feel will be important to have in the game as a support Pokemon. We have Sableye and its Mega. Next one is Survivor. Now, I couldn't fit Survivor in as a fighter, so next thing would be to have it a support Pokemon. It'll be cool to see Zangoose fighting with Survivor on support. There's some love between the two there. It's not always war. And Claydol, just because Claydol has always been an interesting design to me, and I really wanted to see it do something, so I opted to put it in here as well. Let me see, there was something else. I didn't put Solrock or Lunatone in here just because it really bulked the list down, and I felt Claydol was a much better addition because it could possibly do what they were going to do anyway. But they both could be in the game, so we don't know. Next one is Latias and its support, and Jirachi. Jirachi being on the list for the same reasons Celebi was. From Gen 4, I believe we'll see Vespiquen, you know, the bee Pokemon, or the final evolved form of Combee, Vespiquen. Drifblim, Bronzong, Magnezone, Rotom, and its forms. Now, I don't know how they're going to deal with Rotom's forms. Maybe it'll be random. A Rotom form comes out, does an attack. I don't know. Maybe they all come out, do an attack. I actually have no idea. I had Azelf Uxie and Missprit on the list as well, but I removed them all for Cresselia just because I felt Cresselia is a better representation of the Pokemon from this generation. And yeah, I also removed Darkrai from the list of fighters too because I was just trying to keep the list not as heavy with legendaries from this generation, since this generation here is kind of like forms a gap between, you know, playable Pokemon and stuff like that. From, well, not really playable Pokemon, but like most people growing up with Pokemon didn't grow up with Gen 4. They mostly grew up with Gen 2 or Gen 3. Gen 4 was kind of just in there. So I don't have many just from this generation here. And the last one being Shaman Skyform, just because Shaman Skyform seems to be popular amongst Shaman's forms, so it's there. Gen 5, we have Victini. And yes, Victini's number on the Pokédex from this generation is technically 000, so it's on the list first. Snivy has been confirmed. I believe you'll see Mershana, just because there's an entire part of the game dedicated to it. And since this here is Gen 5, I want to bring in Pokemon that people from this generation are familiar with. So it's here as a support Pokemon. Tranquil is another one, I believe, that can be a support Pokemon. It learns Hypnosis. So I'm just going to let you guys just think about that. I believe we'll also see Audino and its Mega play some role in the game as support, along with Whimsicott. And the last Pokemon being Emolga, which has also been confirmed. From Gen 6, we got Fennekin and Frogadier as confirmed Pokemon. Though I do believe we'll see Florges. The mouse Pokemon from this game, Dendini, I don't know how to say that. I really don't. Klefki, Diancie, and Hoopa. I believe we'll see those from this game as well. And I believe Hoopa will randomly call in a legendary Pokemon and it will come out into attack. So these Pokemon could be things like Lugia, Ho-Oh, Rayquaza, Darkrai, stuff like that. So I believe they will be in the game through Hoopa. I really don't know how they would do this, but every time I see Hoopa doing something in what they've been showing has always been summoning legendary Pokemon. So I do believe Lugia will play a role in the game, but it may be through Hoopa, which would be interesting to see. But that is basically my entire list of Pokemon I think may have a role of being in the game through either playable Pokemon or support Pokemon. Oh, 42 minutes. All right. I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to say about that. I mean, that's pretty much my list and my reasonings on some of the Pokemon as to why they may be in the game. Obviously, I do not know for sure what they're going to possibly do. I mean, for all we know, they can make Wailord a playable Pokemon, and it'll be odd, but I mean, they could do that if they wanted to. But I guess now all I want to do is I want to know your guys's opinion on this list. I feel this list is very fair to a lot of Pokemon in the game. Obviously, all of them can't be in the game for reasons, and I do recognize that. And I also didn't put every single Pokemon on this list that has a Mega. Like I didn't put Gyarados in, though I believe it has a very good shot at being in the game through Megas, or at least through support. I didn't put Primeape in just because the list from Gen 1 was already heavy fighting Pokemon, so I wanted to bring fighting types that actually have a strong representation of the series, and Primeape is definitely one of those Pokemon, but unfortunately it just fell short for Pokemon like Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, and I really didn't want to have the list being as big as fighting Pokemon as people think it may be, because it's not. We have to not look at this as a fighting Pokemon game. We have to look at this as at something like Pokemon Coliseum or Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. We have to think of this as an actual Pokemon world. That's what this game is being represented as. It's not being represented as a fighting game. I mean, you look around, you look at the stages, you see life everywhere. You see trainers, you see cars, you see all the stuff that you don't normally see in fighting games today, whereas fighting games just purposely serve the part just to be a fighting game. You know, this simply, it is a fighting game, but there's an entire community here of Pokemon that flourish and thrive off of one another. So we're not going to see one type completely bogged down. You know, the reason I'm very adamant about getting bird Pokemon in this game is because they're very important to the Pokemon ecosystem. They are. Like, they're used for transportation. They just make the games more lively. Like, we couldn't imagine our world the way it is today without birds. You know, you always hear them chirping. You always see them flying around. You know, they're part of our world. Our world would not be the same if it didn't have a single bird in it at all. So that's the reason I want to see them in this game, is because they've been shafted pretty hard by Game Freak. And you don't ever see them in any kind of spin-offs or anything else like that. Or if they are in spin-offs, they're normally passed up for other Pokemon, and you might see like one or two. But I do believe that they actually do have a good chance of being in this game, and I sincerely hope that they are. Same thing with a lot of the fish Pokemon. You know, they are also an integral part of the society. You know, most of the world, even in Pokemon, is filled with sky and water. So of course you have to have a good representation of the life from this here. And I also didn't add in a bunch of Pokemon just based on their personalities and stuff. Like, Mewtwo likes competition, so obviously there's no reason not to have Mewtwo in the game. I also didn't put in the genies just because, I mean, Gen 5 list would have been mostly exclusively legendaries if I did that, though they even have a really good shot of being in the game as well. So I just want to hear you guys' opinion on this. Tell me what Pokemon you think should have been on the list and why. You know, I want to hear your reason why you think X Pokemon should be on the list, because maybe there's something that I just didn't go over in my mind when I was actually making this, and you have a really good reason. Like I said, this list, I mean, this list technically means nothing at all, but it's just my opinions on what I feel could possibly be in the game, and just basic general discussion. You know, tell me who you think should be on a list, tell me who you think shouldn't be on a list, and give me a reason why. And just tell me, what things do you expect to see on April 25th and 26th? Do you expect to see any new stages? Do you expect to see more than 3 Pokemon? Do you expect to see less than that? Do you expect to see more support Pokemon? Like, I have no idea what to expect for support, so maybe you guys can be like, maybe they'll put so-and-so Pokemon as support, and here's my reason why as to why they might do that. So, if you guys like this video, then please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be covering Pokken Tournament all throughout its development, while providing commentary on it as well, giving my opinion on things that they may be doing with the game, as well as criticisms, because nothing is safe from my wrath when it comes to criticism, not even Pokemon. And be sure to like the video, because I really want to see the developers of Pokken Tournament actually look through my videos, look through my lists, see who can actually be in the game, and at least listen to the reasons why I feel that these Pokemon will actually make it into the game. And as always, I wanna thank you guys for watching my videos, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Though, on a quick note, before I do leave, I'm actually going to have a copy of this entire list down in the comments below as well, so you guys can actually look at the list and just have it for yourself. With that, I will guess I'll see you guys on the 25th or before, if I got any other news or if I forgot to cover something. Later.